What's up guys, Nathan here. This is the companion video for my Elsha Threefold Master deck tech. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of goldfishing, playing 1 to 2 matches, and assuming low and heavy interaction respectively from our opponents. The goal of this deck is to win by about turn 7 or turn 8, or at least assemble a lethal board state by then, assuming that we're uninteracted with. And I made a couple of swaps from the initial deck tech. Fists of Flame has been swapped out for Distortion Strike. Generally, I find that it is better to have an unblockable commander than to have a bigger commander. Time Warp for Shared Animosity. This one is really just cutting Time Warp for cheese reasons. I feel like extra turns are really cheesy in commander. And one of my viewers actually recommended Shared Animosity. So we are going to be a little bit more civilized by playing Shared Animosity, as ironic as that sounds. Bulk Up has been swapped out for Quarry Steel Cutter, which is a newly announced card from Tarkir Dragonstorm. Crash Through has been swapped out for Center Soul for a little bit of protection and a little bit more evasion. I found that with Elsha already having Trample, giving our creatures Trample is great once we have all those tokens assembled, but I'd rather swap it for a protection piece for Elsha to focus more on the setup portion of the game rather than the late game when we have all of our tokens assembled. So those are the swaps I've made. Let's head into the playtester. Now the first match will assume very little interaction with Elsha, and hopefully we can get 3 lands in our opener here. We have 1, 2 there. We've got Veyram, which is an amplifier piece, some removal. I guess we do have Sink into Stupor, which is a land on the backside, and some card draw here with Decoy Gambit. This doesn't have a ton of cantrips, which I'm a little bit disappointed to see, but I think we can work with this hand. Okay, so I think we want to probably start ourselves off by playing a Riverpire Verge, which can produce red. And by the way, we need to draw our first card for the turn. I suppose I should. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me do this differently. So we're going to put that back on top and then press N to start the turn counter. Okay, so now we go to turn 2. We're going to play this here, Battlefield Forge. Do we have a turn 2 play? Ideally, we'd like to see some sort of mana storage play, but it looks like we don't, so that's totally fine. We don't have a turn 2 play, but we are Jeskai, so we are storing all of our mana for the late game, of course. Then we're going to draw into a Flooded Strand, and I think what we want to do is probably play that Flooded Strand and crack it for, we want to crack it for a Azorius Shockland, which I believe would be the Hallowed Fountain, which I actually see right in the first row here. That's going to go to battlefield untapped. We will put that Flooded Strand into the graveyard. So we have full Jeskai colors here. So I think we just play out Elsha turn 3. Granted, we don't have much protection up for her yet, but it's still pretty early in the game. Okay, next turn to turn 4, we're going to go for a Scalding Tarn, and I think we do want that 4th mana pip. Actually, no, we might not. We will crack the Scalding Tarn looking for a Surveil land. Thundering Falls is what I'm looking for, so that will go to battlefield. That will enter tapped. We will put Scalding Tarn in the graveyard, and we will Surveil 1. So Kaya's Onslaught is exactly what we want to see here. We are going to need to start buffing up Elsha, so we're going to keep that on top. Okay, so with our 3 mana, we can either play Veyran as an amplifier. We can hold up Protection with Clever Concealment. We can also play Decoy Gambit to draw some cards. We still have a full hand here and 2 lands, so I'm not ready to draw some cards yet, and we can start buffing Elsha. So I don't think Double Strike on just, well, I guess we could just swing in for a total of 4 damage if she does have Double Strike with the 2-handed axe with the sweeping cleave mode, and we would make ourselves possibly 4 tokens, but it would depend on what our opponents have for blocks. So I'm going to be conservative a little bit here. I'm going to assume that our opponents do have good blocks. So let's go ahead and play that Veyran so that we can possibly get in for more damage next turn, because then we will at least get double prowess triggers to buffer up a little bit to get past those pesky blockers, which I'm imagining are in the way. Okay, next turn, Rugged Prairie. So then we'll have a total of 5 mana here. Kaya's Onslaught I really like on top of, or no, I'm sorry, let's go 2-handed axe on top of Decoy Gambit, because I wouldn't mind drawing some cards here. We could also, depending on what's at the table, if there's a removal heavy deck, I would hold up Clever Concealment. If there was some sort of Grixis control, definitely hold up Clever Concealment in place of the Decoy Gambit here. But let's go ahead and tap ourselves for, let's see, we need a colorless and a red to cast our 2-handed axe on Elsha. So target creature control gains Double Strike until end of turn, and Veyran is going to double her prowess trigger triggers. So when we move to combat and we're planning on swinging with our 3/3 double strike trample prowess Elsha, we have to make some assumptions about how many tokens we think we can make based on what our opponents have for blockers. So that's just a major assumption, and one of the downsides of goldfishing this particular deck is it's hard to get a reading on the field. So right now, if we look at our board state, we are threatening 3 cantrip spell casts, which would give Elsha an additional +6 damage with the Veyran doubling it. But our opponents don't know that all we can really do is cast a Decoy Gambit to help draw some cards and remove some stuff. So what we'd probably do is go to combat. We would swing with the Elsha. We'd probably hold Veyran back as a potential blocker, and then we would probably, in the middle of combat, if our opponent blocked with something that was disadvantageous for us, at instant speed we would cast this Decoy Gambit. For each opponent, choose up to one target creature that player controls, and return that creature to its owner's hand unless its controller has you draw a card. People probably have their commanders out on the field at this point in time, so I would assume maybe one person chooses the return and 2 people choose the draw mode. So we'll just sort of assume we draw 2 here, and then we'd be able to get in for an additional 2 damage with the Veyran doubling our prowess trigger. So we would probably get in for between 5 damage and perhaps, well, yeah, let's just assume we get in for 5 damage. So we will make a total of 5 plus double strike is like 10 monk tokens. So let's just make that monk token, and then we're going to make 9 copies of it right there. So again, sort of a major assumption here how many tokens we can really make, but here we can see that the power of double strike and the double prowess trigger is really coming in handy. So two-handed axe will just sort of sit off to the side here in exile. Then we'll go to our next turn, and we can play this Sink into Stupor as well, or hold it up as interaction. We'd probably be able to just play out a Jeska's Will, and then we'd be able to dump our hand to generate a ton of damage on board, in addition to casting, let's see, so we'd be able to cast the Kaya's Onslaught plus probably the Disrupt Decorum with the mana that we currently have, which would give Elsha that 5/5 again, and all of our tokens would be 5/5s as well, being doubled up with the Veyran. And then we would be able to exile the top 3, so let's just do that really quick. We'd be able to probably just play the Profs as well if we had the mana for it, giving our tokens 7/7. So that would be a pseudo-lethal board state, I think, by between turns 6 or turn 7. Again, we have turn 6 in as we record the video, but there's going to be opponents that can block and so forth, and we'll use the removals. So we'd probably be able to threaten lethal next turn or turn 8. So I think that's probably a pretty good start here. Okay, second game here, we're going to assume a higher difficulty, more interaction, and more blockers from our opponents. We have a total of 3 lands here, which looks great: a cantripping spell, a finisher, a buffer, and a mass disruption spell. So I think we'll go ahead and keep this card, and we will start the game here turn 1. Let's go Arid Mesa, and we're going to crack this for the Meticulous Archive. We'll go to the battlefield tapped. Let's Surveil 1 off of that. Sea of Clouds will keep on top. We need our lands. Let's go next turn. Then we will play our, let's see. I think we want Steam Vents can enter tapped because we don't really have a turn 2 play, so that's totally fine. We don't have a turn 2 play. Next turn on turn 3, let's go City of Brass, and we can play Elsha here. I think that's probably the best move, so we can start buffing her up a little bit. Next turn, ooh, we got that Slip Through Space, and we can also cast the Two-Handed Axe. So let's go Sea of Clouds. We have 4 mana, so we can actually get Elsha up to, I believe, a 4/4, and she will get double strike. So let's go 1 blue mana for Slip Through Space, draw a card. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. That will go into the graveyard. Prowess count 1, so let's buffer up by a +1/+1. Then we can also use Git Probe for 0 mana. Look at target player's hand, draw a card. So then she'll get an additional +1/+1. And then we will use, I think it's probably best at this point, maybe we actually do use the Two-Handed Axe early on. So we're going to give target creature double strike until end of turn, so she's going to get an additional +1/+1 and double strike. Now we definitely know that our opponents cannot block a 4/4 trample double strike, especially holding up 1 mana, and they don't know if we have a cantrip. So Two-Handed Axe will go off to the side here, and we will swing in with Elsha, and we're going to assume that we make 8 total monk tokens, and assume that our opponents probably can't block that because that's a pretty difficult attacker to come in. So next up here, we're going to go next turn. We're going to go Mystic Gate. We could hold up a Dress Down. Let's see what we have for Storm here. So we could, let's just go, I think Taunt from the Rampart, honestly, is going to allow us to get in for some free damage. And because then all of our opponent's creatures will be tapped if they don't play any untapped creatures, next turn we can then play out more spells here with probably a Chroma's Will plus Warlord's Fury. Although, do we actually want to play a setup piece first? Do we actually want to play a setup piece? I actually kind of like that. I guess it depends on what our opponents have on the board. Let's assume that we do need to blow the Taunt from the Rampart again because our opponents have scary creatures. So goad all creatures your opponents control. All of our creatures are going to get +1/+1, except that our little Elsha will only be a 2/2 instead of a 4/4 as we're showing on screen now. So let me reset that. Okay, that goes to the graveyard, and that cost us a total of 5 mana. So now all of our opponent's creatures are goaded, can't be blocked. We send in everything, absolutely everything we're going to send into combat. Let's go next turn. Shivan Reef. Now we have access to 6 mana, so we can actually play a probably a Quarry Steel Cutter and then in a Chroma's Will, because we do get out an additional monk from the Quarry Steel Cutter, and then that will give everything we control +1/+1, a total of +2/+2 for the turn, and then double strike, evasion, all of this stuff, life gain. So we would be attacking with a board of 3/3 double strikers, which is really not that bad. Not bad for the turn at all. And then we'll make another monk here. So we're definitely sort of threatening lethal at this point in time. The Quarry Steel Cutter will go off to the side, which we can cast on a later turn. Let's go next turn. Reflecting Pool, we can then cast our Disrupt Decorum and then Warlord's Fury to give everything an additional +2/+2. And then also we would have made some monks last turn from Elsha connecting. Depending on what we were able to get in for damage wise, we'd probably make 3 additional monk tokens there. And then we could also hold up Dress Down as well. Let's see, because that would be a total of Disrupt would be 4, the Warlord's Fury will be 5, and then we would be able to, well, we wouldn't have the mana to hold up Dress Down. Or no, we would with the Reflecting Pool, yeah. So we would be able to get another spell cast. We'd be able to swing out with a total of a board of 4/4s, essentially, which would actually include these monk creature tokens. So that is Elsha Threefold Master, to give you guys a little bit of a taste for how this commander plays. Lots of prowess finicking with power and toughness. All right, that's Goldfishing Elsha Threefold Master. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and all that stuff. Subscribe, check out my Patreon, and hopefully we'll see you all in the next one.